Hey, Catherine,
Good morning.
how are
It's
you
so,
doing?
I'm good. I've never met like an Instagram person, so I'm like,
I promise I'm real.
yeah. I suspected as such.
Well, what would be helpful today?
Well, I was definitely obviously thinking about it, and like, I guess just I do have a question.
Hmm.
That I think I I don't know, maybe it's helpful to give some background first, like
Sure.
context.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm in San Francisco, and so I got licensed in 2020, so weird time, had my
Yeah.
baby in 2021. And so I kind of really didn't like hard launch until 2022.
Hmm.
Um, and like the private pay thing is not such an issue here. It feels like
Right.
culturally people are used to paying out of pocket. Not that many therapists actually accept insurance. And so I haven't found that to be like too much of a struggle, like to
Hmm.
find clients to pay full fee. Um, and so like my fee's 200 and it's fine. Like most people are paying that. I just have a few people that are not. My dilemma is twofold. One is that like buying a house here is so complex. And so
Hmm.
like the mortgage people are like, you need to have a W-2 job. And so like I've had a part-time job and I'm starting a new one, which I have
Mm.
like I kind of have some shame about that. Like just because I'm
Hmm.
like, ugh, like I owned a business before being a therapist and like like I feel like confident about the idea of being a small business owner, um, but that is like a huge pull, right? Because like a three-bedroom house here is like $1 million house.
Right.
So it's crazy. And so I'm starting a new part-time job that's 3 days a week, and it's like with Kaiser, which is like the big healthcare
Hmm.
provider here, and whatever, and it's like $100,000 job for 3 days a week. So I'm like, okay, well, that seems like somewhat worth my time. And so I'm doing that. And then my plan is to do private practice 2 days a week. And, I don't love it, but I feel like it's like a plan to like get us the house that we need.
Hmm.
Um, so there's that. And then the other part of it is that like in private practice, like I'm one of those people that just seems to like have endless interests. And
Hmm.
so like I have a very hard time saying like I only work with one particular population. And so I have had trouble finding like the right kind of questions to like ask myself, I guess. Like, 'cause I've done all of the niching down stuff that you have and everybody has, and I never feel like I get to like a place where I can figure that out. Like the place that I came to like after I had my baby and stuff was like around working with like cycle breaking parents, right? Like
Hmm.
parents who are healing their trauma from like their own childhood and having little kids. And so I did this fellowship last year for infant parental health, which was like a lot of money.
Hmm.
Um, but then I'm also doing EMDR. And now I'm getting interested in CAP therapy. And I've kind of always had this space in my practice for teens. Like I did like one of my like training jobs was at a teen agency, and it just seems very hard to like not continue serving that group. And
Hmm.
families seem very willing to pay for therapy for their teens, and so it's been like an easy referral source, and I genuinely like them. So I'm like, it just seems like impossible to do so many things, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, it's okay. I want to first, there's a lot
yeah,
I want to talk about because you just brought up such good juicy stuff. Okay, the first thing about the banks wanting you to have a W-2 job is that because you need 2 solid years at the income you want. In private practice, you could do it if you're at the income you wanted for 2 years.
yeah,
Uh-huh. Yeah, but they're like, I know what it's like to have like, I want to buy a house now.
yeah.
And um, so one thing I would want to put out there is that if you were to work 3 days a week in your private practice for 2 years, the amount of home that you could buy is much higher than you could with this $100,000 job.
Yes, yes,
So I'm gonna just say that I understand.
yeah,
Like I said, I understand being ready to move
yeah,
into your own
yeah,
home,
yeah,
and I know that that sometimes like that's an emotional decision, and
yeah,
there's no reason to argue with it unless there's a reason to argue with it, you know? So
yeah,
putting it out there that like from a math perspective, which is not emotional, it would
yeah.
make more sense to fill your practice and wait 2 years.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. yeah. It's an interesting juncture because like I am hitting the 2 year mark, right? And um like obviously it's tax season right now. And so there's that. And then my husband is in like a career shift space too. He's in an industry that's like dying. He like
Mm.
kind of like he does telescope product development, which sounds cool, but like,
Hmm.
you know, like Chinese factories are like basically taking that over, which makes sense. So yeah, so like yeah, this is the part where the shame comes in. It's like I know what you're saying, and it's like it's so
Hmm.
hard to like make these choices.
Yeah, yeah. And I
Yeah,
definitely don't say it to
yeah,
shame you
yeah.
because
No, I know. Yeah,
there are emotional
yeah,
reasons to buy a home. Like we
yeah,
shouldn't always just go off math. That's first
yeah.
of all, we wouldn't be therapists if that's how we did things.
That's 100% true. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
um, I'm thinking about it from the perspective of like that's a lot of clinical work.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
like
That's the rub I got in with the job I took last year. The only thing different about this job is it's not like a clinic, it's not a caseload job. It's just like doing triage.
mhm.
So it's
Okay.
like because I know the person who's like the director at that hospital, so I kind of was like really careful about like even going through the interview process, and so I talked to her kind of like off the record about it, and but she's like, no, it's not. There's no caseload because Kaiser's known for having these crazy caseloads for their
Mhm.
clinicians, and I'm like, I do not want to get into that, but um, so that's the only thing is like the job ends at the end of the day, and it's just like doing
Mhm.
intake phone calls, and I'm like, okay, I think I can do that and
Yeah.
do my practice. Like that was the intention of this taking this job is that like then I would have the energy for my private practice and hopefully like
Mhm.
figure out on the side like exactly what it is that I want to like 100% dedicate myself to clinically because like I have
Yeah.
so many things. It's like it seems hard to like
And rather
focus.
than 100% dedicate yourself, 60% dedicate yourself to it.
Yeah,
Just
fair.
60.
Yeah,
We all
yeah,
want some breadth in our practices.
yes,
The trick is you figuring out which one you want to fill most of your practice.
yeah,
Um, it might also, depending on like I'm just thinking about the house buying situation, it might also make sense to increase your rate. Like you're kind of at a lower rate for San Francisco.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and it maybe like you're like nobody has a problem paying it. That you might like the ease of that. That, you know, if you're charging 250 or 300, if there was some more oh, I can't do that, then it might not feel as easy and flowy.
yeah,
But
yeah,
it's also the math with that too. And
yeah,
this is an area where I will go harder on the math. Like if you could work like 2/3 of the amount,
yeah,
is that right? I'm not great with math, but I think 2/3 the amount instead
yeah,
of the whole and make the same amount of money while you're working this full-time or part-time 3 days a week job,
yeah,
it might make it easier.
yeah. That's probably true.
Yeah. But that doesn't answer your question about niche.
Yeah,
Um,
like I'm just not sure how to like get rid of anything because I I like them all.
mhm. Are
Yeah.
there, is there a group that you get referrals from, like maybe the teens that like you don't market to at all, you just keep getting those referrals?
Yeah, the teens, I don't market to them at all. Like I just
Okay.
occasionally like I think I've people will say that they got a referral to me and like I don't know the person that they're talking about. Like
Mhm.
so that has been interesting.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And what's your website like right now? Is it like more of a,
It's not great. It's like okay. And I think the thing that I've found the most useful actually has been just like the local like listservs have been
mhm.
that's like how I found like a lot of clients initially.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And are you sending them to your website from the listservs?
I do, I have in the past, and
Mhm.
I used to have like a Calendly so they could book like a consultation without talking to me. And I took that off just because I have so much going on and like I mean I feel like I don't really have a lot of capacity to take on new people, but interestingly this week I've gotten like 5 people reaching out. Like so
Mhm.
um they were all but they were all word of mouth, right? Like they were all just
Mhm.
like and like one person coming back from the past. So
So it sounds like you have as many clients as you want.
Kind of, yeah.
I wonder if like if you're happy with the clients in your practice, maybe if it's like a if it ain't broke, don't fix it scenario.
Yeah, yeah,
Like unless you're looking to really optimize, like, oh, I've got like a large number of clients that are in this niche that I really want to move away from because it's exhausting,
yeah,
or I need to be working less because I've got this other job and I need to like not lose income doing that.
yeah. I think the thing that like actually the thing that like is like my underlying like rub is that like I feel like I want to be like an expert in something, you know? Like
Got it.
I want to be like so it's like kind of why I did this like fellowship, which was like awesome, but like we have like this ending weekend coming in April and I'm supposed to have this big presentation
Mhm.
and I said that I would be doing parent coaching as like my thing and I haven't done that because like I'm like where do I have time to add that
Mhm.
but whatever I can just talk about it I don't have to have done it so yeah I'm like well I don't know I can't figure out where that thing is you know
Mhm.
that like I just want to do all the time like
Yeah.
I
So
don't
it sounds
know
like
you know what
that's
I mean
not it, or you probably would have like pushed it some in your practice.
not that I think that parent coaching isn't it I think it's because I think I like depth work more like and I think the
Yeah.
directive coaching stuff is challenging for me because I I think that I don't always want to be giving people such specific advice like
Mhm.
because I don't feel like I always have answers for that. Like, I don't know why your kid
Yeah.
is doing that thing, but let me tell you how you can talk to them in a different way, you know,
Mhm.
and that feels more like therapy than coaching,
Mhm.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean it sounds like you get a lot of word of mouth referrals for teens. Would you say like your expert level there?
I feel like I am now. Yeah.
Mhm. And
Yeah.
but that's not the expert you want to be, sounds like.
It feels like, yeah, like I don't want to do that for the rest of my life. I don't think
Mhm.
for sure. Um, but I like I don't know, I like the buoyancy of it. It's sort of
Mhm.
like, you know, like I like seeing the ones that I have, but I guess maybe what I'm thinking about as I'm talking to you is like maybe I don't want to accept those referrals in the future. Like, yeah.
Is there any similarity between your teenagers and the adults you really enjoy? Like, are the adults, those teens grown up without intervention?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think it's like having had like traumatic experiences in childhood, like the stuff that I tend to work on with the teens that I see is like, yeah, like more depth oriented, like trauma related. And yeah, like I do
Okay.
EMDR with one of my teens, for example, you know,
Mhm.
that kind of stuff.
And that's the kind of work that you're doing with the adults also?
Yeah, like I tend to like be more depth oriented with them around like usually around trauma, difficult childhoods. And then I do have like a good proportion of like adults who are parenting young kids. And that's
Mhm.
kind of where I started to see that I liked that population a lot.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
I mean, so would it be so that like your expertise is in people who've had abusive, traumatic, or difficult childhoods?
I think so. Yeah.
And that, I mean, any age, right?
That's
That
true.
runs the
Yeah.
gamut.
Yeah.
And that shows up a lot for like you're mentioning the parents of young kids. It shows up a lot for parents of young kids when they realize like they're wanting to parent differently, right?
Yes.
Cycle
Yeah.
break.
Yeah.
And it's having them reflect on their own childhood. They're wanting to create
Right.
something for their child. Um, yeah. What if you just owned that? That like that's your niche. We don't have to worry about the demographic of it as much as like your niche is the pain that they feel and the problem that they're having.
Yeah. I feel like I need to write that down.
Yeah, write it down.
Yeah. 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 Fear. Yeah. Like yeah, like the niche is like the problem rather
Mhm.
than the, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
So then if we own that, or you own that as your expertise, as your niche, what pushback comes up inside?
Mm, I think it's like, I'm- like I'm not actually in this moment experiencing a lot of internal pushback,
Awesome.
which is good. It's not normal. Um, I mean, I just think about like because I remember the moment that like I had this idea of like trying to like talk to like the cycle breaking parent, right? Like,
Mhm.
and so I think about that moment a lot, and like what I was feeling and experiencing myself. Um, but like I don't think that there's, yeah, I think the only thing that I would push that sounds like a pushback is like probably parents of teens probably don't necessarily want to have a therapist who has that belief potentially, right?
Mhm.
Which is fine. Um,
Yeah.
there's that. Um, but then as I'm thinking about the teens I see, I mean, they actually own that their kids had difficult childhoods for various reasons, like traumatic divorces and whatnot.
Mhm.
So maybe it's not such a big deal. Um, yeah,
I'm thinking like I'm imagining your website because this is how my brain works.
yeah,
And like your homepage is talking about like this is who you treat. And you mention how you work with teens, how you work with adults, and how you work with new parents who are cycle breaking. And then you would have like drop down specialty pages for each of them that those link to. So that you have
hmm
an opportunity to go in depth. Like with the teens, for instance, you can say, like the parents of the teens I see, um, exactly what you just said, can acknowledge that they've done their best, but their kid went through a traumatic
yeah,
divorce or some really difficult educational system issues or
yeah,
had a friend die, or you can just list some of the common things
yeah,
so that the parent doesn't feel immediately defensive. And
right,
you're giving them some credit that they're looking for some help for their kids. So they're definitely like
yeah,
wanting to help, potentially wanting to take some responsibility if that needs to happen. But ultimately they want what's best for their kid.
yeah, right.
And that'll help funnel out the ones you don't want.
That's true. Yeah, that is very true. Yeah. Yeah, I have a call after this with a parent who is like, I feel like I'm really struggling to communicate with my kid. I feel like my stuff is getting in the way of our communication. And I'm like, oh God, yes, let's do this call. Like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I think, yeah, having that kind of humility is a lot easier to work with.
Hmm.
So,
And the insight there, like you've got clients coming in
right.
with pretty good insight. They don't know how to change it. Like they don't have to
Yeah,
change what's going on, but they understand that it's a them issue, not a kid issue.
right. Right. Yeah. That's the other thing. Like when I first started as a therapist, like there's this like whole thing of like, I work with high achieving perfectionists, right? Like I feel like that's like such a, I don't know, like when I first started noticing niches, like that was like the one that I saw all the time. And I have
Mhm.
plenty of friends who go that route.
Mhm.
Um, and so I didn't really like that language, but like I do seem to find that like I have a lot of clients who are very like highly intellectual and like they really like to
Mhm.
process things and like they have, you know, insight and stuff. And I've never found a way to like find the right word to mark to that without using the
Mhm.
language that I didn't like before. So I'm like, oh, you're really smart.
Mhm. Right, right. Are they
Yeah,
overthinkers?
kind of. Yeah. Over analyzing, and
Mhm.
even part of the geographic area tends to skew that way. It's like people that work in
Mhm.
tech and have like high level jobs and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I think you can say like, that all of this is complex and you really want to figure it out.
yeah,
You can think it to death, but it's not fixing anything.
yeah,
or even for the people who like, you can understand the dynamics really well, theoretically, but
Right.
bringing that into your life has been hard.
Yeah. That's, yeah, that's helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like, okay, we've got your niche. We've got some clarity on how to communicate it. You're buying a house.
I mean, God freaking willing. I'm
And
not religious. Sorry.
you know, say whatever.
Yeah,
You're buying a house, you've got this job that you can leave at work, which is great.
hopefully. Yes, that's the idea.
Um, and you have as many clients as you want with more calling. You're in a great position.
I think so. But yeah, it feels tenuous all the time.
Mhm. What
Not
about it
tenuous.
feels,
It feels overwhelming, I think is
okay,
probably,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
I can see
yeah.
why. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a lot of work. How many clients are you seeing in those 2 days?
Um, I haven't started, that job didn't start till the last week of March. And so like I'm in kind of like this period of between I, jobs. So I have probably like 12-ish to 14 people that I could see weekly.
Mhm.
And so I'm not sure exactly I yeah, how I'm gonna work that. Um
I'm gonna do math real quick. So you said 12 to 14, so I'm gonna go for 13.
that might be more than what did I see this
So
week?
to make the same amount of money that you're making per week, at 200 a session, and I know you said some are lower than that, but we're just gonna go with 200 for math's sake right now. If you were to charge 300, you would only need to see 9 people.
Oh,
So just from a math perspective, just something to think about. Um,
yeah.
because I don't know if those are 8-hour days at Kaiser. Even though it's not an ongoing caseload, and even though you leave it at work,
Yeah.
it's still heavy.
Yeah. 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 I don't know anybody that's charging 300. I do know a lot of people that are in like the 225, 250 range.
Okay.
But
I know
yeah,
some
yeah, I
folks
mean,
at 300. I know a lot of folks
yeah.
actually at 300. That's what I think
Really?
of as like,
The San
because of the
Francisco
people I
rate?
know, like that's the San
Oh,
Francisco rate.
really? Oh my God. Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, I mean, if
Yeah.
250 feels better, I can do that math. Um, it's 10.4 clients. I always round up. So like 11 clients. So that'd be 2 fewer.
Huh. So that would be like a gross annual of like, what did you say? Like,
Oh, that I just did it by week, but
oh,
depending
okay.
how many
Yeah.
weeks do you take off in a year?
Maybe 3 to 4.
I'm having a hard time with backwards math. Hold on one sec. We'll do 4 because that one's easier. 52, 48. So that would be 124,800. Um, making the same amount. Like if you had 13 people at $200 per session,
Mm-hmm.
like you do
Okay.
now-ish,
I see what you're saying.
250 with
Yeah.
11 clients. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. My husband is always trying to get me to raise my fee. I'm like,
Yeah.
why don't you ask your boss for a raise? And
Yeah. And there are a
yeah.
million ways to raise your fee. You could raise it just for new people. You could raise it
Yeah.
like over time for current clients. Like there are a number of ways to do it. In the party under special circumstances in the what to say when course, there are some different ways outlined.
Okay.
Um, so there's a way, I promise.
I know.
And
I
it's
know. I know.
something to consider just from a workload perspective. I don't want you to get burned out. And I want you to have as much time with your family as you want. So
Yeah. Ugh, I never, it's so funny. Like, I never expected to be in this position. Like, that, I think that's like the grief that I probably have to work on with my therapy is like, I always, like, it's interesting. Like, I went into grad school knowing that I wanted to do private practice. And like,
Hmm.
I didn't feel like I had the same like money stuff that a lot of people have. Like, I never had that feeling of like, I'm not doing this to make money. Like, I knew how much I paid my therapist in San
Uh-huh.
Francisco. And I was like, oh, well, that's how much I can make too.
Hmm.
Um, and so I never had the feeling that I was obligated to like work in community mental health or anything like that. Um, and yet now here I am in this weird place with money.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just got here a different way. Yeah.
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 And I think if how many people a day, like so if you're going to see like 13 people over 2 days, then you're looking at 6 or 7.
Yeah. The other thing that I do, which is going to sound like I'm again a burnout case, is I see people every other Saturday. Um, so so I probably wouldn't do like 6 to 7 straight on Monday and Tuesday. I would see a couple of those
Mhm.
people on Saturday. Um, yeah.
Okay. It sounds like, yeah, it sounds
I
like a
hear
lot.
myself. I hear myself.
Yeah, that's all that matters. And I think like if you sat down with the math of $250 per session
Yeah.
with, I don't know what kind of caseload you would want if that was all you were doing, how many clients would
Yeah.
you want to see?
Yeah. Um, I'm not sure.
Mhm.
I mean, like on a day, like I feel like 4 is like a really nice number, and
Yeah, yeah.
five feels like a busy day,
Hmm.
and 6 is like too many usually.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. So I think it's doing the math to see like what would it look like financially? Would it make sense um once once you bought the house? I
hmm
don't know how long you want to stay in this job, if it's more like getting the proof of a W-2 and moving
yeah,
on or what, but doing the math to see if you went at this full throttle,
yeah,
like what could you make? What could you let go like Saturdays? Could you let go of
yeah,
Saturdays and just
yeah,
trust that the clients who can see you will see you?
yeah, yeah. You raise a lot of good points.
Yeah, it's just a
Yeah,
lot. And
yeah,
I want you in
yeah.
this career as long as you want to be in this career. I don't want you burned out and leaving.
I
So,
know. Yeah, that was a big part of why I went down this path. I was like, oddly, I was in like, I owned a fitness business with my brother, and
mhm,
I was like, there's no way I can do this forever. Like, I can't do like heavy lifting as a career when I'm in my 50s. I guess I could, but I didn't see it. And
mhm.
so I was like, oh, I can sit on a couch until I'm 75 if I want to.
There we go.
But, and then you're in it and you're like, it's a little different than just sitting on a couch.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Different
Yeah.
kind of heaviness, right?
Yes.
Not
Yes. Yes.
weights, just
Yeah.
emotions. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
keep me updated. I want to hear about it in the party. And
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I was so excited to get this time and I appreciate it a lot. Really
absolutely.
nice
For sure.
meeting you.
Nice meeting
Okay,
you.
all right. Take
Take
care.
care. Bye.
Bye.